Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Lowgman, aka the Low Gravity Man for the 8-bit Nintendo, or Nintendo Entertainment System. This is a game I played not really much at all as a kid. This isn't a game I really grew up with or anything. I experienced it once or twice as a kid. I think I had neighbors that like rented it or something, and it seemed pretty cool. It was one of the few games I could think of that have this sort of like really high jump mechanic, and that was always really cool to experience back in 1990 when this game first came out. But like I said, I haven't really put much time into it up until just recently. I picked up a cartridge just a few weeks back because for some odd reason, the one I have on my retro USB power pack doesn't work in my AVS. So I went ahead and just picked up a real cartridge because based on what I had played, it seemed like a fun game. So I wanted to put more time into it and potentially finish it. People told me it wasn't a horribly difficult game, and they're both right and wrong. We'll talk about that later. And, but yeah, here we are now. I've actually completed the game as of yesterday. I finished the game multiple times in a row, back to back yesterday. It took me a couple of days to actually learn the game. It's got some really frustrating parts to it, and we'll dabble or talk about those once we get to those parts. But I did do it in a couple of days. It just took some serious patience, though. It's got some parts that are just extremely frustrating, and it's got some questionable design choices as well. I mean, maybe they weren't so questionable back in 1990 when this game came out, but playing it today, after I've played a whole lot more polished games, I really wish this game had some tweaks made to it. Maybe somebody can do a hack of some kind. I don't know if that's even possible. Dig into the programming, if at all possible, to fix a couple of things. But we'll talk about those issues as we get into the game. So let's go ahead and hit the start button and just jump right into it. So you've got a password for every single stage in the game. Except the first stage, apparently. But if you actually beat the game, you can start on a second loop, which is actually a harder difficulty mode, and there's a password for that. And if you beat it again, which I actually did yesterday, you get to the third loop, which is even more difficult. I believe there's actually a unique password for that as well, so you can actually save your progress, you know, as you're trying to, you know, challenge yourself on successive loops. Basically higher difficulty modes, and they are considerably more difficult for any higher level players that are kind of curious. So jumping right into it, Lowgman, it's a side-scrolling platformer. You've got this gun here which actually freezes enemies by holding up an attack, which is the B button. You can press, not press, but you can use your spear. You can also use it in the air, both vertically, well, both up or down. Technically both up and down are vertical. So yeah, that's the main attack mechanic in the game. When you kill enemies, certain enemies, and I'll explain this further as we go through, will drop power-ups. And by hitting the start button, you can select any of these four offensive power-ups. Unfortunately, we don't have any right now, so I can't demonstrate that, but we will. And then as you can see, you jump really high in this game. You do get jump boot power-ups as well, so you can actually go even higher than this, like over a full screen's height, which is kind of interesting. So normally you move kind of slow, but if you're holding in a direction and then tap in that direction again, you actually start running. It's actually a really weird run mechanic. Now you can activate it as well by double tapping, but if you're just holding and then you just tap it again rapidly, you'll just start running. It's so weird. I'm used to strictly just double taps, but this one allows you to hold and then tap. So the freeze mechanic, unfortunately, does not kill enemies, and enemies only stay frozen for a short period of time. So that's one mechanic you have to get used to when you're playing this game, is you have to realize that enemies will become unfrozen. But the main attack mechanic in this game is to freeze enemies and then spear them. You can also spear them without freezing them, but if you want to have an easier time of the game, I suggest just freezing everything you possibly can. It just allows you to attack enemies safely. So let's just freeze the sky, and we'll do the jump and air slash. So there's a variety of power-ups in this game. I'll try to explain them as I pick them up. So let's just freeze this guy, or not, we'll just spear him. This power-up right here, this sort of like reddish dragon-looking thing, is a spear upgrade. So you can see my spear is actually a little bit longer now, and it does extra damage. I'd like to thank Blargman, aka Professor Mike, who was watching some of my Twitch streams. I don't know if he's going to be watching this video. He actually provided some tips in regards to the power-ups. I did not have a manual next to me when I was playing this, or a walkthrough or anything, so it took me a couple of days to actually figure out what all the power-ups did. But the reddish dragon emblems, those increase your spear power-ups, and Mike advised me that you can basically power up your spear 3 times, or I'm guessing it goes up to level 3. So level 1 would be your default, level 2 would be the first power-up upgrade, and then level 3 would be the second power-up upgrade. If that's wrong, post a comment below, or if I get my 3rd upgrade by picking up a 3rd dragon emblem, I'm not really sure how it works. I'm assuming when you just pick up 2, that maxes out your spear's power, because your spear is the longest after you've picked up the 2nd one, and it does the most damage. Supposedly your spear does up to 3 times damage, so I'm up to 2 times damage right now with the spear, and then picking up another red dragon icon will put it up to 3 times, and it'll be just slightly longer as well. So, you know, that's one of the power-ups. Just about every enemy in the game drops power-ups. There's 2 bell types you can pick up. That guy just dropped a red bell. Those are just points. So if you're playing for score, you definitely want to pick up the bell icons, but other than that, not really necessary to grab those things. Another interesting thing that happens in this game is power-ups do not land on the ground and stay there. They always fall through the ground and through the floor. And so if you're not, you know, close to those power-ups, you're gonna miss them. So what you want to try to do is make sure you're close to enemies when you really need the power-ups. Those red potions are bad. You don't want to touch them. I just call them poison. I don't know exactly what it is. It's just bad. It hurts you. It takes away, I think it takes away about half of a health block. If you look in the bottom left-hand portion of the screen, you'll see that you've got a life meter, and your time is there as well. The stages are timed, so that's a blue bell. That's just points. Something else I did want to let you guys know is we are going to be finding the 2 secret levels in this game. So we have to find our first secret level, we have to find, but capture this guy. And then by holding down and pressing jump, you'll do a super jump. Certain vehicles that you can take control of will allow you to super jump. And by going through this door, we're going to skip this whole level and the rest of this chapter completely. And we're going to skip the first boss, which is actually really nice because the first boss is a pain in the ass. But while I'm in this vehicle, I wanted to let you guys know that if you look down towards like the right center next to like my gun icon and so forth, and above the chapter, you'll see a VEF timer. That's actually your vehicle. I don't know what it stands for. I'm assuming like vehicle energy or something. So this actually is basically the amount of time you can use said vehicle. You can also press select and just jump out of the vehicle immediately, like I just did. Taking damage when you're in the vehicle reduces the timer faster. So certain secrets, like this one, I believe this secret actually requires to get that vehicle. I don't think you can actually jump all the way up here, even if you have maxed out boots. Let's go ahead and just jump into that, because I can keep talking on this one. So this takes us to our first of 2 hidden stages. Now there are other hidden areas in the game, which is pretty cool, and I'll sort of just point those out. So what this does is it takes you to a hidden level, and you basically play this level until your time runs out. It allows you to collect some point icons. It allows you to get powered up if you're not fully powered up. So kind of like the red dragon emblems, which there's another one. It might not even be a dragon. It just kind of looks like a dragon from my view. You can pick up blue ones as well. So you'll notice like my gun power up only shoots 1 projectile at a time. However, you can actually get that powered up with the blue dragon icons for a 3-way shot. And those blue bottles are the opposite of those red bottles. The blue bottles actually give you health back. They give you 1 full block of health. Now, a lot of enemies in this game actually just, when they hit you, they just do half a block of damage. So even though you've only got 4 blocks of health, in many cases you can actually take up to 8 hits. Now, when you're playing on higher difficulty modes, or at... Oh, there, see, there was a blue dragon icon, so... unfortunately... Oh, it still picked it... Did it pick it up? Or did I pick up another one? I'm not sure. So, you know, on the default difficulty mode, when you start the game normally, you can take up to 8 hits in most cases. Now, there might be certain bosses that take away a full block of health. And when you're playing on the harder difficulty mode, so you beat the game once, and then you go to the second loop, which is much harder... I believe pretty much everything would just take 1 block of health away. I think. I'm gonna have to verify that later. So yeah, I hope you guys kind of have a good idea or a good understanding so far of how this game operates. There's still a few more mechanics, like here's a boomerang enemy. Certain enemies in this game always drop weapon power-ups, and they keep giving me these red dragons, which I can't really use right now, unfortunately. So very specific enemies in the game always give you weapon power-ups. So those boomerang guys always give you the boomerang power-up. Just like so. Oh, here's a special item. Not special, but I'm going to say, I don't even know what to call it. Super? It's an S, so I can only guess what it means or what it stands for. The S basically makes you invincible. You start blinking like crazy. I think like the B power-up in Contra or something like that, where you start blinking like crazy and nothing does damage to you. And that's basically what that does. So that's a good power-up to grab. Now, enemies that don't drop weapon power-ups, they only drop the other power-ups I've been talking about. So those like little planes I just killed, they always drop these bombs. And this is what the bomb looks like. This is level 1. Now, if you pick up multiples of these, you actually rank these up. And they stay at that rank, I think... It's either until you die or it's until you get a game over. Obviously, rank 3 is the best, and I don't have any at rank 3 yet, but you will see some at rank 3 shortly. So these guys do not drop weapons. Enemies that drop just regular items, the regular items, and this is one of the mechanics I actually don't like about this game, the regular items are just completely randomized. That was actually a jump power-up, so that would have raised my jumping ability. So as you can see, my jumping ability is a little bit better now. I can go a little bit taller, a little bit higher. So one of the things about getting powered up in this game in terms of your special weapons, it's basically about just taking advantage of the enemies that you know drop weapons. Like these guys always drop bombs. So see if we could freeze him, grab his bomb. These guys up here, they also grab bombs. But certain of these guys, you can actually take their ship as well. So like this is one that's good to take because you can just sort of stay up in the air. And you really only make good distance with this thing when you're tapping the A button and boosting up. You can try to boost up as far as you want, but the falling is a little sluggish with it. So it's not ideal if you're trying to move back down. So here's another boomerang guy. He's going to give me the boomerang power up. Actually, let's just wait for him to go up a little bit. Bam, just like that. So boomerang power up again. There's another one over here. Another boomerang power up. This guy's going to give me a bomb power up. You'll notice with the jumping, you can actually just tap the jump button. And this is actually really important in other parts of the game. Look at these like baby jumps you can do. You can actually, it actually registers that. So that's actually a cool mechanic. You have a lot of flexibility. You just keep going until you let go of the button. So kind of like that. So there are very specific parts in the game that require you to do some baby jumps. And there's a couple of different ways you can fight some of these bosses as well. One thing I like to do is just use some projectiles on these guys. If the projectiles do a lot of damage, and I might as well use them if I have them, that sort of thing. So you can see how the boomerang is actually going vertically as well, since it's at level 2. And when it goes to level 3, you can actually shoot it in 3 directions, vertically and both left and right. Now, on this boss, it should be noted that the water actually doesn't, it's not a pit. There are endless pits in this game, but actual endless pits don't really start appearing until about 3/4 of the way through the game. That water will hurt you, though, if you touch it. You won't fall to your death, but you will take damage. So you definitely don't want to touch the frozen ice on this stage. So this game does have a couple of like cheap segments like this, where you just start falling as the stage begins. And what you want to do is try to just use your down slash as you're going, and just hope that you don't take a hit. See, what I should have done here is actually tried using the just taking advantage of the whole super thing I just picked up, the super power up, the invincibility. I'll just call it invincibility, even though it says S. And just sort of skip through all these guys as quickly as possible. So the blue bell I just got was points. Points again. I don't really care about points. You might get extra lives from points. I don't know if you do actually. I haven't gotten one yet, and I haven't died yet. So I'm gonna say you probably don't get extra lives from points. If you do, I wasn't really paying attention to it in my practice runs of this game. See, I still haven't maxed out my gun yet, which is a bit of a shame. The three-way shot definitely makes it a little bit easier to freeze guys. Alright, so we're going to be at the boss fight right here. And what I like to do is just freeze him and then get up and slash him with my spear. You can actually just slash him with your spear without freezing him, but it's just a little more risky, I find. So the thing about this game is if you can freeze enemies, you might as well. You have less to deal with. It's just a lot safer, basically. But this guy's kind of weird. Like, he'll get close to you, but then, like, he'll just sort of, like, hover away. And or if he's, like, right on top of you, you can just spear him over and over, and he just kind of, like, goes up. Or, like, he'll get really close to you, but won't actually touch you. It's kind of an interesting little mini-boss. A little unpredictable. Like, several other aspects of this game. Now, these bosses are actually going down pretty quickly because my spear is maxed out right now. Now, when your spear is maxed out, it does take longer to attack. So, when say you die and you lose your spear power-ups, you do have the benefit of being able to attack faster. Definitely don't want to pick that up. That's poison. But overall, it's best to have your spear maxed out. Okay, so we're going to actually get another vehicle here as well. These spider dudes. And if you want to try to grab one of these vehicles, you need to jump on top of them and attack them. Attack them from above, basically. And it looks like I just got another blue dragon icon, which means my gun's going to be maxed out once I come out of this form. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually just get out of this right now because I can move faster. And I want to freeze this guy just so I don't take any damage trying to kill him. Just like so. So pretty much all enemies in this game can be frozen. So if you can freeze them, and by enemies I mean actual enemies you can destroy. There are certain obstacles in this game that will do damage to you, but you cannot attack them. And I just picked up poison by accident. The poison is kind of easy to avoid, but sometimes you just can't avoid it. Like if you do a down slash on top of an enemy, well, you can't really do a whole lot about that. You're forced to just pick up the power-up, even if it's a negative thing, like poison. And this is where, like, the power-up system in this game just kind of bothers me a little bit. And it's not so bad right now, but when you're, like, having a hard time with a boss later on in the game, your success against said boss is partially going to be determined by the power-up system and what power-ups you get. So I'm going to pause it real quick. So there's certain bosses in the game that are really challenging to deal with, and when you die, you get sent back to the very beginning of the stage. Something else I haven't mentioned yet, there are no checkpoints in the game. You have to go back to the beginning of the stage every time you die in this game. And you have to work your way back through the level to get to the boss. Now, some of those screens aren't that bad. It only takes you like 15 seconds to get back to the boss. But there's only 3 enemies or 4 enemies leading up to the boss. And so on one attempt, you'll attack every single enemy, and they'll just all drop point icons. And then you'll get back to the boss with no power-ups. Next time, they'll give you like 2 spear power-ups. But then they'll give you poison, and because of how you have to attack the enemies and how, you know, in close quarters combat-ish it is, you'll end up collecting the poison by accident. It's almost unavoidable, and you'll lose health, and you'll get back to the boss kind of powered up, but then your health will be low, then you'll take a bunch of hits, and then you'll die. I've had sections in this game where I'm so close to killing the boss, and then I kill one of, say, like the enemies next to him. I'm forced to grab a poison, and the poison kills me, and I lose my life, and I have to do the stage and the boss over again. It's very, very frustrating. Alright, so this boss can be a little tricky. Just like with other bosses in the game, you probably just want to try to focus on freezing him. The freeze mechanic is kind of interesting in that it takes longer to freeze the enemies when their health is higher. So when their health is lower, it takes a lot less time to freeze them. So in the beginning, it might even be worthwhile to just use some projectiles and then start trying to freeze them. So like right now, what I could do is switch over to my projectile here, do a bunch of damage like this, and then start freezing him. Because I'm basically going to have to shoot him anyway with my gun if I want to freeze him. And we're actually low on health. And there we go. I'm going to just get out of here. Okay, so he's pretty low on health. Yeah, he's very low on health. When you just shoot him once with your gun and it freezes him right away, he's very, very low on health. So there's actually another secret in this level. It's not a warp zone to another stage. It actually takes you to another room. Basically a vertically falling section that just has a bunch of useful power-ups. Now we're pretty much maxed out on power-ups right now. We've maxed out our gun power-ups. We've maxed out our red power-ups. Now something I didn't really note earlier is kind of like with the vehicles. When you hold down on jump, you'll jump higher with them. You can also do that. I thought you could do it with lowgman. Okay, you can't. I actually need the vehicle. Okay, so I'm wrong about that. Never mind. I actually need the vehicle to get up there. Normally, I'd be fully powered up with my jump. My boots can actually go up one more level. I should be able to jump up here normally with my powered up boots. Like you can see, I'm actually going higher than I was in the beginning of the game. You know, I'm going slightly above the screen, whereas before, when I first demonstrated the high jumping, I couldn't even go to the top of the screen. So now we're just going slightly above the screen height. And then getting one more boot power will allow me to go up even higher and all the way up to the top to rescue, I don't even know what you call them. Soldiers, people, friends, comrades, prisoners of war, I have no idea. So on certain parts of the game, you can actually rescue some people. Now rescuing them inherently doesn't really do much. Like you might get some points for it, I don't know. There's no like end goal to like rescue all the hostages or partners or friends or whatever. But they do drop power-ups, so if you see them, you might as well grab them. And so as you can see, we actually got our last jump power-up, which will allow us to come up here. Oh, he's gone. See, there should have been somebody there. If you don't access these guys in a certain order, like if I didn't come up here first and then get them, they might disappear. The game's a little wonky with how the spawns work. Sometimes enemies will appear, you'll walk off screen, you'll walk back, and they'll be gone. It seems like when you trigger certain events or certain enemies that prior enemies will just disappear by default. And that's more apparent on another level where it's helpful to try to get a vehicle, but if you go up the stage too far, like there's the guy there's the prisoner. Let's actually test that theory. So we came over here, we hit that. Is he still there? No, he's still there. So we're coming down here. We got these guys. Alright, so I'm going to go back and see if he's still there. But I know that first one should have been a prisoner as well. The one where I got to it and there was nobody there. Yeah, see, he's gone too. So if you go too far, these guys just disappear completely. They pretty much just despawn and they don't come back. So something to keep in mind when you're playing this game. It's lowgman, you know, if you want to just be successful with this game, you want to be able to finish it without as much trouble. Just get everything you see, like, the second you see it. Don't, like, dilly-daddle and go too far ahead and then come back. Just collect them when you see them. Chances are it's going to be an upgrade you need anyway. especially if you've died or something like that. Like right now, I don't really need the power-ups, but sometimes they can drop health pickups. Sometimes. Hopefully they drop health pickups when you actually need them. One of the big problems about the randomly generated power-ups in this game is that you're at the mercy of what the game wants to give you. Sometimes you'll get lots of health pickups when you don't need health, and other times you'll get poison when you're about to die. And then other times you'll get the same kind of spear power up over and over, even though you're already maxed out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get out of this this vehicle. So this is the room I was talking about. If I go to that, it'll actually it will take me to the hidden area for this level. It won't skip this level, but it will take me out of this out of this section into a hidden section. Now we're actually getting close on time, so what I want to do is try to beat this level before my timer runs out. There are no time pickups in this game, so when your clock is low, you better start booking it, basically. Now I'm pretty sure we're actually close to the end of this stage. Now these spider vehicles, you basically just want to stomp on enemies from the top. Yep, and here's the boss. So what we're going to do here is actually switch over to this power-up. We're only on rank 1, I guess. But we're powered up fully in the boomerang. So what we're going to do is just try to take these guys out. Just like so. And now what I'm going to do is... Well, I'm actually kind of low on time, so we're going to go ahead and just use this. These are my level 3 bombs. You can see I'm tossing 3 bombs now. Bam, just like that. So if you have a lot of like offensive projectiles, you can just use those on bosses. You don't have to deal with the freeze mechanic, which would require me to jump on top of the boss, spear downwards, and then jump off before the guy gets unfrozen. Now let's hope that we can actually do this stage without dying on our first try. That would be nice, but I've already just taken 2 hits, unfortunately. And grabbed poison! Because that's what the game does. A lot of times it gives you stuff you do not need, and it just harms you. Although we just did pick up an extra life. Extra lives are really only important if you're trying to play for score. Because when you continue, I'm pretty sure your score gets reset completely. But we're not playing for score, we're just playing for survival, and in lowgman you get unlimited continues. So I'm just playing very methodically. I'm freezing guys, and then I'm attacking them, then I'm freezing them, then I'm attacking them, and that's basically it. Lowgman is not that difficult, at least in terms of the regular stages, as long as you play safe. The biggest point of contention in this game, in terms of difficulty, for me, is the boss fights. And then in the case of like a level like this, it just requires a lot of endurance, and that's where a lot of the challenge comes from in this game. First, it's figuring out the patterns for, say, the bosses. Then it's about getting to the bosses successfully without dying, and then beating the boss without dying. Because you can spend 5 or 10 minutes getting to the boss, but then not be very good against actually fighting the boss, and then die. And then you have to do the whole level over again, because like I said, no checkpoints. And that can get infuriating really, really quickly, especially if you're on the something like the final stage, where the stage takes a couple minutes to get through the level. It's not really a short stage, especially with what you have to do, and you guys will see what I mean on the final level once I get there. It can be very, very infuriating, and I really think that sort of starts with like from here to the end of the game, where the levels become longer. Like, look at all these prisoners I've gotten. Now, if I die at the boss, and actually the boss is just over to the right, I can see the little cubby there. So what we're gonna do is, we're only on level 2 on this. We're going to do the boomerang trick again. And we're going to try to jump up. Oops, I messed up, but that's okay. We're good. We're actually good. So this boss, you can actually just sit towards the middle, and his projectiles just won't hit you at all. So I'm just going to sit here and just keep spearing up like this. And you do a little extra damage. I get a few extra hits if my spear stays in him the longest. But you can really just sit here and just poke over and over like this. Every time you hit him, he actually goes up a little bit. Now the final boss, we're going to use a similar technique, where you can actually just sort of sit next to his projectiles, and you can still hit the boss, but he can't hit you. His projectiles just sort of like, you know, skim right by you. Alright, so this level is where we're going to access the next hidden stage, and this is going to skip us over the Chapter 3 boss, which is really good because it's kind of a pain in the ass, as several bosses are in this game. One of the cool things about this game is that I didn't even know there were hidden stages in the game until... that's not entirely true. I actually found one hidden stage on my own. I found the one in this level, actually, because I saw that, and I'll just explain it as we get close to it. But I figured it out in this level, but when I beat the game, it actually talked about both bonus stages. It actually gives you like a carrot on a stick, basically. It says, hey, there's a couple of bonus stages in the game. Can you find them? And like, I think it's really cool that the game does that. So when you're going through the game in subsequent plays, you're trying to find these hidden stages. And the cool thing about the hidden stages is that they make life easier on you. They give you power-ups, you skip difficult parts of the game, and so if you're having a hard time beating this game in one sitting, I do recommend trying to find the bonus stages. I think they'll definitely help you out a little bit. And they're satisfying to find, because it's not every day you play an NES game from this era that has hidden stuff like that in it. You know, it's pretty cool. Alright, so I do need to play it safe, though, because we're down to 2 blocks of health. So for like these guys right here, what I'll do is just get on top. Oh, and of course it forced me to grab poison, man. And actually, I want to get out of this one. I want to steal this guy, because that's going to re-up my VEF energy. And now with this, what I want to do is try to get up to the top without taking too much damage. Now, you can get up here and get to the secret area without this vehicle. And bam, here it is. It's right here. So this is where the secret is. You actually just go through this wall, and bam, there it is. The reason I really wanted the vehicle to do that is because there's falling rocks, and my health was getting low, and I didn't want to die. And here we go. We're just right back to the other bonus stage. Now, I'm assuming you can die on these levels if you jump off of the you know, the moving platform, or your transportation. We'll just call it transportation. First one's a train. The second one is this sort of like flying ship. I'm not even sure what you really call it. So we'll just kill some enemies. We'll get some points. There's another jump power-up, which we don't need. I think we were already maxed out. So now you'll notice, like, and this is something I kind of wanted to comment on a little bit earlier, just commenting on like the aesthetics itself, or themselves, multiple aesthetic, I don't know. You'll notice how like the game moves like in this sort of like choppy, sluggish nature. Like, look at these shielded guys just sort of like skipping through the screen. It's not very smooth, you know. It's not like a Dragon Fighter or a Castlevania or something like that, where everything is just really fluid in terms of movement. And that can actually sort of affect you later on in the game. When you start taking damage from enemies, the knockback in this game is very choppy, just like those flying guys. And it's very just difficult to deal with, and a little awkward in certain cases. Because you might be used to like Ninja Gaiden or Mega Man or Contra or something like that, where everything just flows at like a nice, smooth, flat 60 frames a second. It's always fluid, right? Unless like actual slowdown occurs from too much happening on screen. But this game always has this sort of like clunky feel to it. There's like this choppiness. Like, look at how my character's sort of just skipping across the screen a little bit. It's not super smooth, you know, it's not super fluid. When you get used to this game, you don't really notice it that much as you're playing it. You just kind of, you know, adapt to how the engine works. But there are parts later on in the game that you'll just be thinking to yourself like, Jesus, man, like I would be playing so much better if this was just fluid, like a Castlevania or something like that. I wouldn't be having as much trouble, basically, because I'm not fighting with, you know, the engine, the choppiness of the engine. So it is a little jarring when you play the game, especially for the first time, but you do get used to it. But even after you've gotten used to it, there are just a couple parts towards the end of the game where it just sticks out like a sore thumb, basically. One of the biggest parts that really stuck out to me when I first played this game was the very first boss, which you guys did not see because I skipped it. I got to the hidden stage. One of the things I really wanted to do when I did this Let's Play, or was going to go into this Let's Play, was definitely show you where the bonus stages are, because I think that's a really cool concept in this game. So I definitely wanted to show you guys where those were, and funny enough, it allowed us to avoid some of the more annoying bosses in the game, which was nice. And if you're going to play this game for yourself, I kind of recommend doing the same thing, because when bosses are really annoying in this game, oh my god, are they annoying. Just like, So, you're not going to see some of my frustration, because we're not going to play those bosses at all, basically. And if you're playing this game, I recommend just fighting the secrets, and skipping those bosses, and then trying to tackle them when you're feeling up to a new challenge that's not entirely fair, if you know what I mean. So... And nope, not quite at the boss yet. We're almost there. Now, there's a couple of other quirks in this game that kind of hampers the experience that I did want to touch on as well. You know, and this is kind of nitpicky right here, but like one of them is if you press start and select one of these weapons, you actually, well, you're actually forced to select a weapon. There's actually no way to back out of this menu without selecting a weapon. So... unless it's out of ammo, like this one. So if I press A right here to get out of the screen, it automatically selects my bomb power-up. But what if you're trying to conserve ammo? Well, you need to be aware of that. You have to press select to switch back to your gun, like so. So every time you pause the game and you come out of pause, you have to make sure you hit select again to deselect your ammo. And this becomes more important from about this point and on in the game, because you really need your weapon power-ups, your offensive power-ups to get through the game much easier. Otherwise, some of these bosses are just very, very challenging to deal with. Fortunately, we just got a couple of health pickups, which is nice. I was actually starting to get worried that I was taking too many hits, my life was getting low. Just because we're pretty much at the boss now. And I just like to have as much health as I can. Thanks to cheap hits like that, he basically just like spawned right on top of me. And let's see if we can just freeze him. And I'm going to just use some bombs on him. Wow, those are really powerful on that guy. I wasn't expecting him to do that much damage so quickly. That was pretty cool. Alright, so this level actually has a really tricky boss as well, and this is definitely where you want to try to, you know, stay as powered up as you can, especially in terms of like your offensive weapons, and you guys will see what I mean once we get to the boss. We're going to be using all of the offensive weapons that we have, We are going to be freezing the boss as much as possible as well, and you'll see why we're going to, because he's kind of crazy in terms of the projectiles he shoots out and so forth. All right, I think there's a couple more enemies up here. Yeah. Oh, we just took a hit. That's bad. Unfortunately, got some points. We got another red dragon, which we don't need. You know, as far as like normal weapons and power-ups, you know, like my spear and my gun, we're maxed out on those. We've been maxed out on those since, you know, close to the beginning of the game. And this is sort of a leap of faith right here. You have to just make sure you jump off the edge at the height of that platform. And let's try to come back down here. Take out these boomerang guys. Preferably from the bottom, because as you can see, they attack vertically. Nice, got a health pickup. That's good. But these boomerangs are also really good weapons, so you definitely want to try to pick them up. Now you got to be careful when power-ups appear towards the top of the screen. If they go too far off the top of the screen, they basically just despawn. So if it's something like a health pickup, you kind of want to try to jump up with it. Otherwise, it's going to fly off the screen, and the game's going to think that it just disappeared, unfortunately. Even though it might be something you really, really need. So there's something to keep in mind with this game, and it's just one of the things that adds to the clunky feel of this game. Is sometimes enemies spawn right at the top of the screen. You can't do anything about it. So even if they drop something you really, really need, you're just, like I said, you're at the mercy of just the game and its engine. And sometimes where enemies spawn, sometimes you just can't do a single thing about it, unfortunately. Now, on this part, you can actually come down here. When I first played this level, I thought this was like an endless pit. Now, you do want to walk off towards the right, where I just did, because there's actually... the edge of the platform is right here. And if I keep walking off, I'll die, basically. So, basically, there's just your one of the prisoners, and... you know, if you die and have to do this whole level over again, it's definitely good to try to grab all the prisoners you can, because sometimes they'll drop... you know, really, really useful power-ups to get you back up to snuff, basically. Alright, so we're pretty much at the boss fight now. And we're going to just be doing a lot of jumping from the right and shooting him with my gun to hopefully freeze him. And then I'll switch over to my special weapons. I suggest staying over here and just jumping as high as you can. You can see he basically does this shot. See, this was actually a bad place to freeze him. I like to freeze him when he's more like towards the center, and I can just stand here in this middle platform. So we're going to just wait for him to dip back down. Just like that. And we're going to switch over to... we'll waste these. And then we'll do this. The good thing about this power-up is I can also... it goes through walls and so forth. So I can still just try to attack him. Kind of like so, but really it's best to try to freeze him. So just jump really high, try to freeze him as he's more towards the middle. And then we're gonna go use... oh, we're out of bombs actually, so we'll just switch back to this. Now I could just try to spear him, but again, that means I have to just get out really quickly before he gets... before he starts shooting all those projectiles again. Okay, so he's almost dead. Unfortunately, those won't go all the way over, but he's almost dead, so we'll go ahead and just spear him now. Bam, he's gone. So, again, like I said, when you can just freeze him instantly, that means, like, he's almost out of health completely. Alright, so this stage is... oh, this is the boss. That's right. I'm thinking stage 5, where we're going to go to the vertically scrolling stage. So this is actually the level I was talking about, where if you die here, you're at the mercy of the power-up drop system. So I basically just killed 2 enemies and only got points. And now, what's this guy going to reveal? We're going to actually just attack him like this. See, that was points too. So basically, I would get to this boss with no power-ups, because there aren't any more enemies. So we're going to just wait for these, and we have to fall left and fall right. And now here you have to do baby jumps, and the hitboxes in this game are kind of crappy as well. So I've actually gone up there and gotten hit, unfortunately. Well, I just got an extra life. Alright, let's see if we can do this. Get on top of him, spear, and then just jump back up. Whew, that's close. We're probably gonna die. Ooh, that was... Yep, we died. I had a feeling we were gonna die at this guy. This guy is such a pain. Alright, so now we gotta do this without any power-ups at all. So, look at that. We just... Oh, look at that. We got 2 things of health. Guess what? We didn't need health at all. Nope, wasn't needed. And then we got nothing from that guy. So now we got to do this again with no power-ups. So we basically went from being maxed out on power-ups to having... And there's the bad hit detection I was just talking about. And the wonky, the very, very wonky, knockback. Look, poison! And we got nothing from that guy. So this is where the game's main design, it starts to stick out like a sore thumb. You start realizing that, wow, this game was really cool up to this point, but now it's very, very problematic. It's not very fair. You know, a lot of people would call it NES hard, but there's lots of NES hard games, quote-unquote, that are really challenging, but still fair, if that makes any sense. Okay, this is good. We at least got the invincibility, so let's just take care of that guy. Look! All points. We just got all points. Oh, and we just took a hit. Okay, so that was a spear power-up. That was good. So a lot of my complaints with this game could totally be fixed with a more consistent power-up system. So like that was poison. I just basically took a hit for nothing. Gonna wait, do baby jump again. But at least our spear is sort of powered up, you know? One strategy is to try to sit here and just attack him from the bottom, but the problem is the hitboxes are not very consistent in this game at all. Like, there was a bullet that just touched me there, but I didn't take a hit. Look, 3 poisons in a row. 3 poisons in a row. This is the kind of crap you have to deal with in this game, and we're gonna die again. Yep, and we just got a gun power up. So we just got points. More points. So we're going to be back at the boss with no power-ups once more. And unfortunately, I am out completely of my projectiles because I used a lot of them on the previous boss. So we're just going to try to jump up his... Alright, let's just grab these. Oh, and I missed the invincibility. Where's another extra life? There's some health. Okay. But then we just got poison. So frustrating. More poison. Look at that. The game's basically trolling me now. Good, I jumped over it. But didn't jump over that. Oh, I thought he was going to come over. So this is basically what I'm talking about when you're playing this game, is you can just really get out of your flow very, very quickly. And then it becomes a matter of endurance. But the thing is, not everybody's got endurance, you know? Alright, so we got poison, but we got a gun power-up. Freeze him, thank you. Kill him. Invincibility. Alright. Actually, what I'm going to do is, instead of using it on that guy, I'm going to use it on this guy. Look, more invincibility. So sometimes the power-up system, you know, helps you. A lot of times it doesn't, though. I think we got this, but this guy also takes a lot of hits. And we do have a spear upgrade. 1. It's better than none. Alright, there we go. Got it. It only took us like 5 tries. I was actually really surprised at how many extra lives we had when we got there. Like, I died my first time, looked at my lives, and I think I still had like 3 or 4 lives left. Alright, so this part's kind of a pain as well. You fall vertically, there's all these enemies, and you're going to be thrown right into enemies as well. Okay, we got some invincibility. But they just dropped poison. So we're just going to freeze this guy over and over, just attack him, and then try to jump out of the way, because he always shoots these projectiles. And then, believe it or not, guys, the next level is actually the final stage in the game. So we can do this without too much trouble, then we might even be able to beat the final boss on our first try, if I can do it just right. And then that'd give us a 1 credit clear, which would be really cool, actually. I don't know if I did a 1 credit clear yesterday. I think I continued on every playthrough. Like, the stage 4 boss is very, very problematic because of that setup, as you can see. See, in the case of like this boss, your dash mechanic really comes into play, because sometimes you've got to get all the way across to the other side of the screen. Alright, he's almost dead. Bam, he's gone. Awesome, awesome. This boss gives me a lot of trouble as well. You know, I ran through this game so many times over the last several days, and that boss gave me quite a hard time as well. I think the biggest thing with that boss is just making sure that after you've frozen him, you've done a few attacks, instead of constantly trying to attack him as much as you can, attack him just a couple times and then run away, because he always shoots a projectile when he teleports away. Alright, so final stage. We're going to go ahead and try to get as many power-ups as we can from these enemies. Pretty much most of the... Actually, maybe not even most. Yeah, most of the enemies on this stage give you offensive projectile power-ups, which you're going to want to use on the actual boss itself. So like these guys right here, they give you the boomerang. Vehicle guys will give you actual power-ups. So like that was a health pickup, which was good. We're going to go ahead and just leave that though, because we're going to pick up this guy here. I have a very specific method on how I get through this level, basically. And like I said, we're going to try to pick up, as many weapon power-ups as possible, because that'll definitely help us a little bit on the actual final boss itself. So these guys, you know, drop those fireball projectiles, which they're throwing out as well. And unfortunately, I lost my vehicle. It's not a big deal, because there's going to be another one right here. we're just going to take our time here, try to grab as many of these power-ups as we can. Doesn't really matter if we take damage and lose this vehicle, because I don't need this vehicle, but there is a trick I like to do here, and I found it makes life a lot easier on the final boss itself, is if you can carry one of these vehicles into the boss fight itself, it just helps you out so much. So there's going to be a bunch of these walkers here. We're going to try to steal one. Just like that. Kill both these guys. Try to hope that they... So that was a spear power-up, but there was also poison. I grabbed the poison, but not the spear power-up. These walkers aren't very good as actual, like... They're just not very good. They're slow. They've got this nice spread shot, but I'd rather have the vehicle be fast. Alright, so this is where we're going to need to basically save this flying vehicle. So what we're going to do is freeze him and then capture him and then just fly straight to the final boss, basically. Oh, that's not good. That's horrible, actually. We just took 2 hits. So this is going to be more challenging than it needs to be, actually, because of that. I just made... Yeah, that was a really, really bad mistake. Alright, so we need to come up here and just shoot as many of these projectiles as we can. Unfortunately, we've got these bubbles, and the bubbles are terrible in this game. So, alright, switch over to some boomerangs, and hope this thing dies quickly. Thank you. Oh, that was invincibility. That would have been really good. Alright, so what we're going to do is... Alright, this is going to be challenging, actually. So let's go ahead and switch over to these. We'll just use these right here. Spear power up. Now, one thing you can do here is if you can get these bubbles off screen, they actually despawn. So, very important trick to know on this boss. And we're going to switch over to these projectiles. Can we despawn these? Got it. Nice. Okay, now, as long as we can do this without taking a hit, we might actually be able to do this. So just lots of spearing from now on. Alright, now this is the actual final part. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where you can just sit in the middle, let the projectile just fly right past you, and just spear him over and over. Now my spear is not as long as I would like, and if you go up too high, you'll actually take damage by touching whatever he's walking back and forth in. So I'm trying to be very careful about it, because again, if I die, I've got to do the whole stage over again. Which isn't really a big deal. I think I've gotten this down. You know, this is gonna be like... I think this is gonna be actually like the 4th time I finish this game. Maybe even the 5th time, now that I think about it. I might have beat this game actually 3 times regularly, and then tried the second loop. And then I beat the second loop. So this might actually be like my 5th time completing this game. So, you know, I've definitely got it down. But that's it. We just beat lowgman for the NES. And apparently it was a hard-won fight. What is kind of cool about this game is it actually gives you an ending, though. There's a lot of NES games, even some notoriously difficult ones, like Battletoads. It just gives you a single screen, and that's it. So, this game gives you a little bit, which is cool. Lets you dwell on your success, especially if you were like me and you had a hard time with it. It kind of alleviates some of the pain. That background right there is actually the first boss, and it's one of the worst bosses in the game. I'm not really sure why they put it at the very beginning of the game, to be honest with you. So yeah, guys, that's lowgman for the NES. Like I said towards the beginning, I think I said it towards the beginning anyway. I'm relatively conflicted with this game. Like, I've gotten really used to it. I like the game, but I don't think I like it as much as I probably should because of several of the design inconsistencies. the completely randomized power-up drop system for normal enemies is quite frustrating, especially if you get stuck on, say, the boss of Chapter 4. Now, offensive weapon drops are I like how that's solid. So, like, when I see the boomerang guys, I know I'm going to get some boomerang ammunition. But with your standard item drops, it's just so inconsistent. I wish this game was set up in a way where, you know, if I memorize, like, the enemy placement throughout the course of the game, that I know I would be getting such and such types of weapons and power-ups at very specific parts of the game. And that would make getting through the game a lot easier. Like, what if you die at a boss of, say, like, you know, Chapter 4? Wouldn't it be nice knowing you always get a gun power-up and you always get a spear power-up going into that fight? I think so. It would make it a lot more tolerable. Especially if, like this part right here, where there's instant death if you don't make tiny baby jumps. And you've got to worry about, like, that hit detection and so forth. And really, really nasty knockback on instant death platforming sections. Knowing that there was always the same kind of power-ups at certain parts of the game, I think would definitely ease the pain. And I died countless times in that final boss. When I first played through this game and I got to the final boss, I think I tried it like 20 times and then I had to give up. I think I threw the cartridge across the room, actually. Oh, that's really interesting. So, okay. Funny little note here is that if you rewind back, it says the journey has only just begun, and it says KAL. Now, I noticed this specifically on the second loop, because if you beat the second loop, it says Ken Lobb there, which Ken Lobb is a North American game designer and developer who's been around since... I don't know if Taxan was the first company he worked with video game wise, but he eventually went to Namco, and then he went to Nintendo, where, you know, he famously worked on, like, Killer Instinct and Donkey Kong Country, and then he's been working for Microsoft ever since. And so in the early days of his career in the video game industry, he worked for Taxan. And Taxan is basically the North American arm of Naxat, if I recall correctly. It's basically Naxat spelled backwards. And so his name actually appears if you beat the second loop. Right before the Your Score part, it says Ken Lobb. And now, I'm not sure if it says anything else on the third loop. But I thought that was kind of neat. Like, he kind of, like, stuck... I don't know if he, like, just went in and stuck his name in here as, like, an Easter egg. But I just, you know, as somebody that grew up in the United States and was there when he was at, like, the front of Nintendo, you know, he was in, like, those Nintendo VHS tapes that they sent out as promotion and stuff like that. And he was, like, interviewed on, like, the Killer Instinct portions and stuff like that. And the Donkey Kong Country portion. So I just found that to be like a neat little Easter egg in here. So if you beat the second loop, it actually says Ken Lobb, and it might say something else if you beat the third loop, because the third loop is much more challenging. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have any other information about this game that I do not know, any extra secrets and so forth, or any extra bits of information, feel free to post a comment below. And if you watched to this point, feel free to drop a comment anyway. Just let me know you got this far, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you're brand new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Get followed to my channel here, and you'll be able to keep up with my future Let's Plays and so forth. Also give the video a thumbs up. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'm out. I'll see you guys soon, and until then, take it easy.